Right, Scott Beagle and the Geological History of Iceland. There. So Iceland, what is it? Iceland is an island in the Atlantic Ocean, and it sits upon the Middle Atlantic Ridge, or I'm going to refer to it as the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. It's one of the other abbreviated names for it. In the slides, it's also the MAR, for simplistically sake, as an acronym for it. But the landmass for Iceland is about 40,000 square miles, or 103 kilometers squared. And then, due to its very active geological nature, Iceland ended up getting the nickname of the Land of Ice and Fire between the cold weather and hilly snowtops to the volcanic magma and earthquake activity happening almost daily as magma seeps out of the hot spot, and then from the Mid-Atlantic Ridge as the two main mechanisms that make up the island. And again here, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge wasn't the only factor in the development of Iceland. The hotspot played a large role of getting the island to where it is today. It formed underneath the seafloor, so a majority of Iceland's landmass is made out of basalt material as opposed to granitic for continental plate. It's on a ocean plate. And then all of this development started around 700 million years ago in the late Cretaceous, or 770 Maya. But with the divergence of the two plates for the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is where the formation started, because it was probably one of the few, or one of the many island chains underneath the ocean that would eventually break the sea level and become an island rather than just an underwater mountain range, with the seafloor spreading zone and the magma buildup. And then the hotspot that formed around a similar time to 70 million years ago, called the Iceland Plume. So for the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, here again it's between the North American and European plates in the Atlantic Ocean. The island chains for mountains extends 10,000 miles from the Arctic all the way down to the southern tip of Africa. And then it's got hundreds and thousands of underwater seamounts, volcanoes, and spreading ridges. And then for the geological feature of Iceland, the spreading zone actually cuts across through the middle of the island as a on-land spreading zone for it. And it's one of the few, if not the only place in the world where you can kind of see the seafloor spreading zone on land. Then the Mid-Atlantic Ridge has a slow spreading center. It only manages about 1 to 10 centimeters, a half to 4 inches of new seafloor a year. And then that's where the magma seeps up from the crust with the hot spot to form the new seafloor crust underneath the ocean as the plates divide between each other. Then for the Iceland Plume, the hot spot, it again formed 70 million years ago to begin cooling the magma underneath the ocean to form the basaltic material rather than granitic. And then for the future of Iceland, the plates will continue to diverge and the hotspot will continue to spew out magma now on the surface, and then parts underneath the ocean with the Mid-Atlantic Ridge to build up the island even further for Iceland. But eventually, it's possible that the hotspot will cool off and die out, and that could lead to Iceland not, with the slow spreading of the seafloor from the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, not being aided by the hotspot of the Iceland Plume. The divergence could win and eventually split Iceland in half, along where the Mid-Atlantic Ridge goes over the sea level for Iceland. And that'd be the only notable thing for it for the future. Other than that, it's going to remain volcanically active and have earthquake activity for the foreseeable future. And then that's the geological history and the makeup of Iceland.